¿cierto? So if you browse on the web, Twonie project, it's interesting what it turns what you find. So hidden on those letters, you find this couple. We have been in contact, and it has been very happy because they were the first presenters to arrange this presentation. So let's welcome, le demos la bienvenida a Michael y a Angela. Después estará Modesto y Alejandra. Y después tendremos un intervalo corto para la última charla de lo que vendría a ser la mañana. Eso, bienvenidos, welcome guys.
Awesome, thank you very much. We're just waiting for the projector to be turned on here. And for those of you who are interested, at the end of our presentation, we'll take a few questions, and then we've been asked to speak for just a couple moments about Venezuela. We recently went to Venezuela, so it's my understanding there's some people who are interested to hear about what our experience in Venezuela was like, so we'll share about that. If I speak too fast, for those of you for whom English is not your first language, please just wave your arms or yell at me, and I will attempt to slow down, at least for a moment or two.
And then I'll do this. No, slow down.
All right, so let's get started. All right, so thank you and welcome to our presentation on our Moroccan honeymoon. I don't know about you, but I'm having a really great weekend so far. You guys? Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you to all the volunteers. Is Bastian here today? Bastian, we met Bastian a couple of weeks ago. He's been backpacking for a while, almost a year, I guess, around, and just bought a motorcycle, just decided he's going to travel around South America on the motorcycle, just found out about this event, and immediately contacted Raul and volunteered to help. So, thank you, Bastian. The food's been great, kitchen staff has been awesome. It's great to be here to visit with old friends and meet new friends, and Raul, especially, thank you. You're over here somewhere, I saw you.
Yes, thank you.
You mentioned earlier about possibly not having a meeting, so we're grateful that you did. So thank you very much. We're so happy to be here. Allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Michael.
And I'm Angela.
So if you have a hard time remembering that, think Michelangelo. I tell people that's why I married her. So I am a 24-year veteran of the Royal Canadian Navy, and between deployments and taskings overseas and personal travel, I'd already racked up visiting about 40 countries on 6 continents. During my last year of high school, I actually got a chance to go and live in Switzerland for a few months on a student exchange. The family I lived with had this moped, and so I got a chance to drive all over the Swiss countryside on a moped, and I think both my love of travel and my love of traveling by 2 wheels was born from that experience.
And I have ridden a motorcycle since I was a child, so it must be in my blood. My brothers rode, my father rode, so I rode. And I have ridden dirt bikes, I've ridden street bikes. I've not ridden adventure bikes by the time that I'd met Michael, so it was all a new idea to me. I got to retire early. I started a career in accounting and finance and moved on to real estate and then real estate development. And that allowed me to retire about 15 years ago. And since then I was waiting for Michael, I guess, to meet him and then to do this adventure. So, yeah.
So we met in 2015 at a Christian motorcycling event, and we hit it off right away. And so it was just 1 month into this new relationship that I proposed to Angela that we take a motorcycle trip. And we'd never really traveled any distance, either of us, on our motorcycles, and so we figured we'd take this trip from our home in Victoria, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada, and we were going to head 700 kilometers inland to the little town of Nakusp, British Columbia, because I had heard about this event that was being held there, organized by this organization called Horizons Unlimited. And apparently a bunch of motorcycle riders and travelers and stuff were going to be there. So we decided we were going to go and check this out. But because we'd never really done anything like this before, we had to kind of figure things out for ourselves. So Angela sends me a text at 9 o'clock the night before we're set to leave with this photograph. And she says, "I'm ready to go."
So that's my Honda CBR Super Sport RR triple laser pipes ready for the track. That was my bike. And he convinced me to go camping with it. It's never even been in dirt.
So I see this picture and I tell her, "I'll be over right away." So I come over and I very gently I asked her, "May I help you?"
I used every bungee cord that I could find. I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought, there's room there, just strap it onto that side.
If anyone's ever seen the TV show The Beverly Hillbillies, this is like their jalopy. And so gently reworked everything. I removed about a basketball's volume worth of stuff.
Who needs a dress and high heels when you're doing one of these? I thought I did. I don't know.
So after reworking everything, we got the bike a little bit slimmer, a little bit better ready to go, and we got ready to take off. So we took off and we arrived in Nakusp, 2 sport bikes and a third person traveling with us on a big Harley bagger. And we were definitely not like the others.
No, it was an unusual experience. So all of the GSs and the Suzukis, 1000s and 650s and Triumph Tigers, and there we come with our sport bikes. Mine was a 600, his is a 500, and I had like fat tires on the back. And so then I realized to enter the campground, kind of like coming here, I had to ride in the dirt to get to the campsite, and I'm like, oh no. But it's humble beginnings for this.
But we had a chance to hear a lot of fantastic speakers tell amazing stories. We met a lot of seasoned travelers, and of course we met Grant and Susan, because that's the event that they attend every year. And we came away inspired to consider motorcycle adventure traveling as part of our lives. And so after 3 years of courtship, Angela and I got married.
And if you'll notice my footwear, guess what I'm wearing? He never knew it was under my dress. Can you see what that is? Those are my motorcycle racing boots.
And so much like every other couple, after we got married, we decided we were going to go on a honeymoon. And we decided we were going to honeymoon in style, or at least a style.
Yeah.
And so we decided to hop on a couple of motorcycles and go and explore Morocco. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, Morocco is a country in the northwest corner of Africa. It's got about 37 million people. It's about 1.5 times the size of Ecuador. And this seemed like the right place for us to go. So we started our trip actually in Porto, Portugal, up in the northern part of Portugal. We were going to meet some other friends at the end of our trip. We hurried our way down the west side of Portugal, looped down to Gibraltar, crossed the straits there. Then we did ourselves a counterclockwise loop through Morocco. We hit some big cities. We got out in the countryside, up in the mountains, out in the desert. Crossed back over to Spain, spent a couple days heading north in Spain, crossed back into Portugal, and ended in Porto. Now, why did we choose to do this particular trip? Angela and I both love riding motorcycles. That's how we met. We both love to travel. At this point in time, I knew retirement for me was coming soon. Angela had already retired.
Yeah.
And so we had decided to set a goal for ourselves. And our goal was to travel the world by motorcycle. But we had two different understandings of what that meant.
When Michael started to share what his idea was of what that would look like, I thought, that's kind of cool. I could travel around the world and ride a motorcycle. So I thought I would simply fly from Vancouver to Germany, that's the other side of the world, rent a BMW, and go ride the Swiss Alps.
For 3 weeks.
For 3 weeks. That's what I thought going to ride around the world actual idea was. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do that.
We'll get to Germany eventually.
We'll get to Germany eventually. I can't wait. He came up with this idea of let's do this trip to another country where it's very different from where we live. We don't speak the language or many of the languages that are in Morocco. And in this case, we were trying out the Honda Africa Twin 1000cc bike. Totally different bike, but maybe that would be a good round the world bike for us. So we had to flesh out the idea of what he wanted to do, which was totally different than my idea.
So not only a honeymoon, but we saw this as a test for us, a test to see whether or not the bike that we selected was going to be the right bike, whether or not we could travel together. We hadn't actually really done any traveling yet.
We should have probably done this before we got married, but we wait till after.
But the pace of travel, the style of travel, traveling, far from home in foreign countries, and the challenges that brings, and the stuff we wanted to bring.
Yeah.
So this was all the stuff I thought I needed to bring, and I was able to get all that into a 90-liter dry bag, and so that's what we took with us. Angela had a similar,
I had a 70-liter bag.
Slightly smaller pack of stuff. We couldn't pack everything, so we had to wear our jackets and our boots and take our helmets on the plane, and we're sitting there in the lounge waiting to board, and someone asked us if we had just come from Comic-Con.
Which is a dress-up thing, right? Yeah.
So we headed out. So what did we learn on this trip? One of the big unknowns was the motorcycle itself. At HU Nikas, we had a tremendous privilege. In 2016 and 2017, the Honda manufacturer truck showed up at the event. And so they had a trailer full of brand new bikes. And so for 2 years running, we had the opportunity to take the Africa Twin out for a test ride. And we loved it, driving through the winding roads and up and through the hills in the cusp area. It was a fantastic bike. We had the manual, we had the DCT, and we both thought that this was going to be the bike that we wanted to take on our round the world adventure. But we figured it might be smart to rent one and try a little bit more long term rather than a 30-minute test ride to see if it was going to work for us. Right off the hop, we started having problems. But in fairness, it had nothing to do with the bike itself. The chain was way too slack and it was in terrible condition. So we actually stopped at a Renault dealership, and this guy here lent us some tools so I could adjust the chain, because, who needs to bring tools, right?
We didn't bring tools. Oops.
Lesson learned. So we got the tire, the chain tightened, we carried on, but it wasn't good enough. The chain was still in really bad shape and ultimately needed to be replaced. So here we are, we're riding through Casablanca, and just happened to see a parts shop with Honda emblazoned across the front. So I stop in, and they have a chain for the Africa Twin, so I buy the chain, and then I'm thinking, well, I gotta put this on somehow. Yeah. So the owner calls this kid over, like a 10 or 12-year-old boy, rattles off something in Arabic, hands him the chain, and the kid takes off.
Down these alleys, down these little alley roads, and so we're on the bikes, and we're like, okay, where'd he go? We gotta follow him, and he's only this tall, and so he's running, and we're trying to ride and follow through these little roads to keep up with them.
So we end up here, and you know, in the category of judging a book by its cover, I didn't feel super confident that this was the place I wanted to take my rental motorcycle to get the chain changed. And so we're sitting there and we're looking around, and we happen to start noticing the motorcycles that are parked outside this shop. And there was BMW, and there was a Transalp, and there was some, you know, a big Suzuki, and there was a Harley there, and Samir, the owner, came over and brought out his phone and showed us his motorcycle, which was a big BMW R1200 RT. So started to gain a little bit more confidence that maybe this guy knew what he was doing, and so we let him carry on changing the chain. Turns out, we find out a couple days later, because we posted some stuff on social media, that this is the guy that everybody takes their motorcycles to in Morocco. He is like the best, the most well-known mechanic. Everyone loves him, everyone trusts his bike with him. So, another lesson learned, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Correct.
So we did continue with the Africa Twin, and we found that in Portugal, on the beautiful paved toll roads, we could cruise along at 160 kilometers an hour,
amazing.
and it was
a Cadillac of
comfortable,
motorcycles.
and it was powerful, and it was just a fantastic bike.
It is.
But when we got ourselves into slightly more technical terrain, and we were down to like 10 kilometers an hour and less, we found it to be, for us and our style of riding and our skill level, to be quite a beast. And after we dropped it,
It was very heavy.
we found it was very difficult to pick up. And so we started discussing whether or not there was a better bike out there for us. I know a lot of people enjoy the Africa Twin. I know that there's at least 2 people here with it. And we loved it for what it was, but it wasn't going to work for us. Now, of course...
One question, please. You were riding 2 up?
No, 2 motorcycles.
I was riding my own Africa Twin. Yeah, 2 motorcycles.
Yeah.
Always.
And we're both very happy with that decision.
Yeah. See, this doesn't work for me.
The other thing we learned as we were picking the bike up for the first or second time, that the cheap plastic hard OEM cases
We were breaking things.
break very easily.
Yeah.
And so I did bring duct tape, because, you know, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy.
There's duct tape. We were using it on there. I'd scratched part of my bike because I'd fallen over with it. Yeah.
Up until this moment, there was nobody on the planet who could convince me that hard panniers weren't the best choice. I was sold on them. I was dedicated. That's what we were going to travel with.
You were naive at this point.
And then, okay, granted, they're the cheap plastic OEM ones, but as I'm sitting there duct taping the thing closed so stuff wasn't going to fall out, I started thinking that maybe we should reinvestigate my decision with regards to what panniers we take.
Yes.
So we continue on with our trip, and we continue to learn stuff. I am vegan, and Angela is mostly vegetarian.
I'm very happy with a good cook. He's very good at cooking, so I eat what he makes. He's a good cooker. Yeah.
So fortunately, we're able to find French fries and rice and salad everywhere. But we learned pretty quickly that vegetarian doesn't always translate the way you'd want it to.
Pollo is vegetarian. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not.
Sometimes we found our options were rather limited.
Camel's heads.
So in order to prepare for this trip, if the military didn't do anything else for me, it did help me to be forward-thinking and to prepare for challenges ahead. I had made what I called my secret weapon, and it was this little wallet-sized card. And on one side, a picture of all the things I don't eat with a big red X, and on the other side, some of the stuff I do eat with a big green check mark. And so we can hand this over to the waiter in the restaurant and guarantee that we can get French fries and salad and rice.
Exactly. It's a steady diet. In Morocco, the primary language is Arabic. And if you get into the mountains, the Atlas Mountains, and you get further away from the bigger cities, it's Berber. And it's even more different. There's been a variety of colonizations that have happened. So there's a little bit of French, There's a little bit of Spanish, but
Spanish
that's
up along
near
the
the
coast,
coast. Yeah, that's near the coast. But the further away you get from the coast, it's Arabic. So it's not something that we had learned much of. So we needed this card.
On the plus side, though, we never went hungry.
We had amazing food.
The food was fantastic, and one of the things that I wanted to try when we got there was tagine. Tagine being like the national dish, the iconic dish of Morocco. We were, however, consistently disappointed.
I think it needed the meat. Tagine traditionally has goat in it or whatever animal they have.
Yeah.
And we always had ours without, so it was a little bit lacking. But if you go to Morocco, try the tagine, I think.
Now, we did find one tagine that was fantastic. When we made it to the Sahara Desert, there was this guy. There's always a guy, right? There was this guy, he's like 6'4", 140 pounds. He had Marty Feldman eyes. Like he was cross-eyed like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
But this man could cook like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And he made us easily the best tagine we had on our whole trip. So if you have some bad tagine, don't give up. Keep trying. Let's see. Now, the other thing we discovered, or at least reinforced, is every country, every people group, every culture, everywhere you go, every single area of the world has figured out some way to combine flour and water to make bread. And in Morocco, the bread that I found that I really liked was msemen. Mm-hmm. And it was a street food item. You could get it on the street everywhere. You could get it in shops everywhere. It was available for breakfast. It was available in the afternoons. And it probably had way too much fat. Yeah. But it was delicious. And Angela got sick of it pretty quick, I think, but I ate a lot of it.
You ate a lot
it was
of it.
fantastic. Yeah. So we carry on, and what else did we learn here? Because we had a set start date and a set end date, and I like trying to cram 10 pounds of apples into a 5-pound bag, we had a very rigid schedule that we had planned in order to try and get in as much as we could. And so even before we left home, we had booked most of our accommodations through Airbnb, so at least we knew we had some place to sleep. Yeah. And we were fortunate. The homes we got to, they were comfortable. The people were very hospitable, but no one had any heating. They did, however, always provide us with tons of blankets. The morning we got up after sleeping here, our bikes had frost on them. And this window is more decorative than insulative.
Yeah, no glass.
So we had tons of blankets, so we were usually warm enough for sleeping. But we learned that the blankets had another use. Yeah. And in order to help you understand this, I'm going to read what I posted the next morning after we woke up sleeping in this bed. Now, of all the things you may have heard about Morocco, the Moroccan bed is probably not one of them. The food, the Medina, the mint tea, the early morning calls to prayer, the beautiful scenery, the language, the costumes, the customs, none of these can hold a candle to the Moroccan bed. Research suggests the contemporary Moroccan bed is descended from a long line of firm surfaces dating back to the marble slabs used during the height of the Roman Empire. This was later followed by the granite period, about the time that Islam was introduced to the Maghreb. Skipping down through history, there's the concrete period, coinciding with French colonization, and the modern or steel period that symbolizes Morocco's current developmental stage. And you get the picture? It felt like there was a literal 1-inch thick slab of oak inserted between us and the mattress.
Throughout the whole country. It wasn't just one time, it was every night. And how did they do that? How did the Moroccans sleep comfortably? The beds were hard.
They were. And the other thing we discovered is that most of the beds were doubles. It was very rare that we found a queen size or a king size bed, and so it shouldn't have been an issue. We were on our honeymoon.
We were on our honeymoon, but we're almost both 6 feet tall, and it was. I
snore.
And he snores.
So we did one day, actually, we had a bit of a bad experience with one of the Airbnbs that we booked. So we skipped it, and we went into town, and we actually found a hotel.
Bathrooms.
Bathrooms, yes. Every place had plumbing, though not every place had.
Some of you might be familiar with what you're seeing on the screen. Yes, have some of you? Yeah, there's squatty potties, squat toilets. And being North American, it was completely unusual. Like, what is that? So I had to go on Google before we left. I had to do some research because it's an important thing, right? Sleep and the other stuff. So yeah, I had to understand how those worked, which way to face, how to use the water, and yeah.
Don't fall backwards.
And don't fall back. And I did once. It was horrible. Yeah.
It's good being cold.
But it builds character, right? So, yeah.
So the one time we did bail on our Airbnb because it was pretty sketchy, we went and we found a hotel that was considered luxury by anybody's standards, and actually had 2 beds.
Yeah.
And it had down duvet.
And it had a bit of fluff on the top of the mattress, so I was like, oh, I'm sinking in a little bit. Yeah, so it was so nice.
So yes. So what else did we learn? What was the riding like? I mean, this was kind of the core part of the trip, right? Because we weren't going to spend the whole time in this luxury hotel, although
No, I
probably would have enjoyed another night at least. We started off in Portugal, and the roads in Portugal were fantastic. The pavement was great. There were signs and road markings and, wonderful sweeping curves and just fantastic riding. Then we came across this road, Angela.
So me and my North American idea, I thought, oh look, we're gonna ride down a goat path. I'm now an adventure rider. I'm doing it, yay! Little did I know what was in store as we were gonna head up into the Atlas Mountains. But it began with that.
If any of you read the Bible, you may recall there's a verse in there that says that God never gives you anything more than you're capable of handling. And I think with the gentle transitions through the road conditions, I think we've proven that verse true. So we went from this goat path, we carried on, we found ourselves some narrow roads, we found ourselves some rougher roads, and we found ourselves some more remote roads. We found ourselves roads that went through tiny villages. And we ended up crossing the Atlas Mountains 3 times at elevations up to 2,900 meters, which is about where we are right now. And you'd think Morocco's in Africa.
Yes.
And so Morocco should be hot.
It should be hot.
Kind of like if you're on the equator.
Yeah, what's with that?
It should be hot.
You Ecuadorians, how do you do this?
So here we are, and as you can tell, there was a bunch of snow. And so here's another lesson we learned, is pack properly. In this picture, Angela is wearing everything that she brought, and some of what I brought.
What I could fit over top of was his stuff too. I was so cold.
It was cold.
What month of the year was this?
This was
April, May?
end of March into April.
Okay.
Spring.
Yeah.
But it's Africa. I mean, come on. Now, the very best day, maybe not the best day, but certainly the most memorable day. And I know you guys are going to go to Morocco, so I can give you more details on this later. But certainly the most memorable day was the day we rode from Imilchil to the town of Bulmandades, through the Dades Gorge. Now, if you've seen any pictures of riding motorcycles in Morocco, this is the picture you're going to have seen. This wonderful, winding, paved road that takes you down through the Dades Gorge, and just down here a little bit, hooks around, and you're in town. And it's a lie. From Imilchil to Bulmandades is 160 kilometers. This is the only pavement you're going to see.
And it's about what, 3 kilometers?
3 kilometers.
So
the
I think-
last 3 kilometers.
I think what they do is they go to the town, they ride through the gorge, have a little coffee at the top, and then they ride back.
Take the picture.
Exactly.
Take the picture from the top.
There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
restaurant here you can take a picture down. We actually missed it coming out, but you'll understand why in a few moments. But this was a 160 kilometer day, and it took us 8 hours to do this trip. We started off, and we were almost immediately in moonscape. You barely see where the road was. And you can actually not hear very well. You can see this tiny black dot there. Angela, what's that black dot?
So we had been riding through this kind of landscape and standing up on the pegs, right, for balance. And this wasn't too bad, it was worse before. There's we call them baby heads, you know, the rocks that you don't want to run over, you want to go around them, all over the road. So I was focusing on the road at the time. And I remember something off to the side, kept going. It had been a couple of hours. I said to Michael, you know, we're way out here somewhere, and I need a break, I'm tired, I don't know how far we have to go, so can we stop? We've got comms. Some of you probably, if you ride together, you've got comm systems. And so we stopped, got off the bikes, we got some water, and that little dot that you may or may not be able to see kept coming closer and closer, and I thought, how can anybody be out here? Like, there's nothing. That's all there is. And I don't know, 10 minutes later, this little boy, maybe 10 or 11 years old, and he's all sweaty from running, he's come all the way up, and speaks Arabic. We don't know what he is saying at first, but then he pulls out his hand, and I thought, oh, he wants money. But no, there was already money in his hand. Someone had given him some euros, and they can't spend the euros there because it's a little village. He wanted to see if we had any dirhams, which is Moroccan's currency. And so we're like, yeah, of course. And so we're like going through our change and we're swapping. And it just amazed me that this little boy was by himself, not in school, he's by himself out in this landscape. And then I vaguely remember there was, I think, a herd of goats. I think he was a little shepherd. But that was just a very interesting experience to have way out in the middle. And we didn't think to take pictures of the boy. That would have been nice, but yeah.
So we provided currency exchange, and then we gave him a bottle of water for his trouble.
This looks a lot like the Little Prince.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe so,
That's
but he
right.
didn't ask us to draw a sheep, so,
Yeah.
which is good, because I would have done as well as Pierre did. Okay, so we carried on, and this is actually one of the easiest sections of roads.
And keep in mind that the bike is not, well, for me, I mean, for us, the bike is not our bike. We're not used to it. Now we've been on it for maybe 2 weeks. They didn't get any lighter. I don't know why. They didn't. So it's still, I'm still negotiating my path. I'm still tense.
And
But it was beautiful. Like,
oh man,
as remote as it looks, it has its own beauty. Morocco has the snow-capped mountains, these desert areas, the tropical side. Yeah.
And this brings us to another one of our lessons. Of all the things that were successful and of all the things that we realized we could improve upon, the number one regret we had on the whole trip was not having some kind of camera, GoPro or whatever, mounted on the helmet or on the handlebars. And so what you're not going to see in this presentation are all the photos we didn't take.
Yeah, right?
And you laugh, but right after I took this picture, we started, no kidding, a 2-hour-long winding descent on gravel road in first gear, standing on the pegs, gravel, baby
Rutted
heads,
roads,
ruts
yeah.
from rain. It was easily the hardest riding we had ever done in our lives, which probably isn't saying much, but it was really, really challenging. And there was no way we could safely stop with these big, heavy bikes to be able to pull a camera out and take pictures. So, now we have a camera. And I hate it, but we've got one anyway. But then we get to that final little bit of pavement. I have absolutely zero interest in stopping to take the picture that everyone else takes, because at this point in time we're tired, we're worn, our nerves are shattered, and we just want to get to our Airbnb. So we get into Bulmandaris, we're back on pavement, we're excited, we've got some cell service, we contact our Airbnb host, he's going to come and meet us and guide us to his house, and Angela says... Oh,
right there, when someone has to come to get you and guide you to their house, I should have thought, red flag, where did you book us? So the guy shows up on his scooter, and he's got a passenger, so I'm thinking, oh, that can't be that bad. He's on a scooter.
But what did you say before he arrived?
I said to Michael, he better not have a long gravel driveway or long gravel steep driveway, because
Never say stuff like that.
Yeah.
We arrived, at the guy's house.
Well, we didn't arrive at the guy's house.
Well, okay, we arrived about this far, and we're looking down from our bedroom window at this winding, steep driveway to
And
come
it's
up.
really steep. It's hard to show you how steep it is. And it started off really loose gravel and then it smoothed out a little bit. But I got to right about there, and I was done. He broke me.
Angela shut off her motorcycle,
Yeah.
put down her kickstand, said to me, "I'm done," and broke down and started crying.
You do it. I can't do this anymore.
So I had to ride my motorcycle up this,
Yeah.
then I had to go down and I had to ride her motorcycle up.
Yeah.
Then I had to go down and I had to escort Angela up.
I
Now-
know.
Angela gives me permission to share this story because this brings us to another lesson, a very important lesson, which is when you're traveling together, it's important to understand what each other's limits are, to recognize what they are, to respect them, and when you reach those limits, know how to provide support and care to help that individual get past that challenge or that moment of being overwhelmed.
I made him ride my motorcycle back down the next morning. So, yeah.
But on the plus side, wherever we went, the scenery was absolutely spectacular. We, as Angela said, we crossed over several different mountain ranges multiple times. We saw all sorts of fantastic scenery. It was truly amazing. We even got out to the western edge of the Sahara Desert, where they've got massive sand dunes. They've got, this was a camel ride thing, but they actually had wild camels we saw wandering out in the sand. And
that was pretty iconic. I think the Sahara Desert, when you go to Morocco, should be one of your destinations. Make sure you make that ride down to Merzouga, which is the town that's next to the Sahara Desert. And you can decide what you're going to do when you get there. I was happy just to be there and walk out onto the sand. I didn't need to ride the camel or take my motorcycle out further. I'd already fallen in the sand with the bike. Yeah, so
first
it was
patch of
amazing.
sand.
First patch of sand, and whoop, there I went. Oh, and the neat thing is, very similar as it might be here, Michael had carried on ahead of me. He'd gone through a gate, and he didn't see me fall. He heard it. I had fallen, so I'm like, uh-oh, because I didn't know how to lift the bike up. And before I knew it, I had 6, probably 12, 13-year-olds popping out of everywhere, running over, and all these little boys are like, "Ooh, let's help you get this bike up." And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. It would have been fun to have a picture of that too, but yeah.
So, as many of you, I'm sure, can attest, at least if you travel the same way we do, you can see all the churches and ruins and mountains and lakes and all the wonderful things that are out there to see. But what really makes the trip are the people, both the people you travel with and the people that you meet. Now, skill testing question. What's the number one question you get asked, especially by your non-traveling friends, when you tell them you're going to go do what you're doing now?
What's the price of your bike?
Okay, money's number 2. Is it safe? Is it dangerous?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it safe?
Is it?
Safe
Wherever you're going.
or-
We're from Canada, so when we tell people we're going to the States, they ask us, is it safe? Right? So here we are, we're going to Africa, we're going to Morocco, we're going to the other side of the planet, and it's like a Muslim country. Is it safe? Well, we had an absolutely spectacular time everywhere we went. The people were kind, they were hospitable, they were generous, they were welcoming, they were always looking out for ways to help us. We didn't have a single problem on in terms of people.
No problems with people, personal safety. I was treated very well. There was no issue. Most of the time I look like a guy on the bike anyways, because hair is put away and I'm wearing men's motorcycle gear. But yeah, very respectful.
Why are these faces you raised?
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. So, one of the things that is important to me and Angela as we travel, we are Christians, so we like to go to church. And Christianity is not an official religion of Morocco.
It's kind of not allowed.
Islam is,
Yeah.
and believe it or not, Judaism is. It is protected in the Constitution of Morocco, but Christianity is not. So they've got a whole bunch of laws, like you can't have a Bible in Arabic, you can't proselytize, churches aren't allowed to own property. And so when we were planning the trip, one of the things we wanted to do was make sure we could worship with a church group each weekend. And that was a lot harder than we thought.
It was hard to find a church.
And
yeah.
it took us weeks of trying to contact people. We found somebody.
Before we left, yeah.
And we had to like provide bona fides before they would even trust that we were legitimate.
Because when you're communicating electronically, it could be someone from the government of Morocco, trying to trap them.
Proselytizing is illegal.
Do you know what proselytizing is? Yeah. Just sharing about God, Jesus, whatever. Or yeah.
And so consequently, when we did get there, this couple here invited us into their home. They're missionaries from Mexico, actually, and they're working with foreign students who are studying in one of the cities in Morocco. This is another couple and her brother. They were from Brazil, doing the same thing in another city. And we got a chance to get into several churches, and they were very careful to make sure we understood they didn't want photos taken. Or if we did, that we didn't share them. Yes.
So the Christians are clandestine worshipers?
Yes. The churches we all went to were home churches, and they told us, well, when we sing, you have to sing quietly so our neighbors don't hear. So it was kind of a big deal, and we were privileged to be able to meet these folks and to worship with them and to learn what that was like in their culture. And in fact, we met one fellow, one of our Airbnb hosts, who was a former Muslim, had renounced his faith and become Buddhist, I think. But he hadn't even told his parents because he was afraid of the backlash that he would receive. So that's why we blanketed some of the faces here. In summary, we were 28 days on the road. You can take a look at our numbers here. 5,000 kilometers over 28 days at an average cost of US $40 per person per day. This is in 2019, and that's not including the very expensive bike rentals and the airfare to get over there. So, what's next? We determined after doing this trip that we are not going to dissolve our marriage.
No,
honeymoon survived. The marriage survived. And we decided that we are suitable travel companions. I know sometimes I get on Angela's nerves, but she tolerates me for the most part, so this is good. So we did this trip, and we did another trip in the spring of 2022 through the southeast US, another 3 weeks, 5,000 kilometers, to test out another bike, to see if that was going to be the bike we wanted to travel on, and also to test and see if we wanted to camp. And we decided we did not want to camp. But we launched on the 12th of March, 2023, for what we tell people is a 10-year-long round-the-world journey on our motorcycles. And we're now in month 18. So I think at the rate we're traveling, we're going to need more time if we want to get all the way around the world. But as we travel, we decided we wanted to travel with purpose. And so we call ourselves the Twonie Project because in Canada we have a coin. It's a $2 coin. It's nicknamed the Twonie. And what we've done is we've invited our friends and family and those who believe in what we do to consider donating $2 every month to us. What we do with that money is we take it and we visit orphanages and other projects that help children, and we find out what their needs are, and we use that money to help meet some of those needs. So in Mexico, for example, they needed washing machines. So we went out and we bought a couple washing machines for them. In Belize, they needed a rebuilt transmission for one of their vehicles. In Guatemala, they've got this minibus, and they use this minibus to go out into the community, and they bring 30 kids in every single day to the school on the campus at the orphanage. And these kids are dirt poor, literally. Bring them in to help them get an education. Well, the minibus needed a rebuilt engine, so we helped pay for the engine rebuild. Our most recent project was in Colombia. Out in the Amazon in southeast Colombia, they do rescue work, bringing girls out of sex trafficking and abuse and neglect situations. And what they said they needed was a big screen TV to help with education and to provide a stimulating environment as part of the healing and transition process for these young girls. So we went out with the money that people have generously donated to us and bought them a big screen TV that they could use. And so that's who we are. About 4 minutes ago, we got the signal indicating we had 5 minutes left, so we're happy to take some questions, and then we'll talk very briefly about our time in Venezuela. Sir?
You didn't talk about the decision you made to switch bikes. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, so we started off with the Africa 1000, Africa Twin 1000, whatever it's, I got it right. I love Hondas, so I wanted to stay with the Honda brand. Realized it was too big, transitioned to the Yamaha Tenere, took that out for test rides. Loved it. It was a simple bike, but it wasn't as heavy, but it still had a lot of get up and go. Realized that was too big. Then Michael read a book by Steph Jevons, Home by 7. She rides around the world on a 250, run to the Honda. And I'm like, oh, that's way too small. I'm not doing that. And then I get put onto Itchy Boots, who's riding around 250s and 300s.
We had gone to several Horizons Unlimited meetings, and we had seen the GSs and the KTMs and the V-Stroms and all these other bikes. And there's always a small group of people who have these teeny tiny little dual sport dirt bikes. And I kept looking at them saying, there's no way on earth I'd take one of those tiny little toys around. They're just way too small,
They're too
underpowered.
small. They won't fit my
Forget
luggage.
it.
So in the end, we settled on the Honda CRF 300L Rally.
One of those small bikes.
One of the small bikes, and it's got everything that we need on it. Michael upgraded his suspension. The suspension is like a mushy pogo stick. And I kept the original suspension. While I'm here in Ecuador, I'm going to investigate getting better suspension. But they're the perfect bikes for us. It's a tractor. I've done inclines like this steep on rocky stuff, and I've never worried that anything's going to happen. And so it ended up being
small,
just right.
it's light, it's simple, it doesn't burn any gas. It's light enough when I drop my bike, I can pick my bike up. When Angela drops her bike, I can pick her bike up.
Still does it.
You know, no disrespect to any other bike or any other choice,
No.
but for our skill level,
Yeah.
for how we like to. Perfect example. One day in Morocco, we pull into town after another hard days of riding, and Angela says to me over the comms, "Welcome back, third gear." And I realized you don't need 100 horsepower to do 60 kilometers an hour. So we're not in any rush anyway.
No,
and the
we're
bike
not.
is more than capable of doing highway speed. So we've been happy with our bike, and that's what we settled with, is the long answer to your question.
Morocco was the catalyst for helping us understand part of what motorcycle, how to travel, what it's like to be in a foreign country, not speaking the language. It helped us with all of that.
Okay. Any other questions about our Morocco trip? Okay.
Is it safe?
It is safe.
Yeah, so
Have you changed the pinions or something on the bikes, or you're using the standard one?
we've been 42,000 kilometers, 18 months on these bikes, and we are satisfied that this was the right bike for us.
I mean the relation, the pinion relation, the speed, the number of sprocket.
Oh no, we've kept it stock. We're happy with what that provides us. We don't do a lot of aggressive off-road riding, so we don't need to worry about lower gearing. But I'm happy with the gear ratio that we've got.
Yeah.
You did put a Corbin seat on yours, didn't you?
I have a Corbin seat on
He
mine.
has a whole bunch of upgrades and farkles. He's riding for comfort.
I spent a lot more money in sinking it into my bike than Angela did
And
in
I
hers.
did not, and I'm regretting the suspension now, but everything else I'm happy with. I'm managing with the seat. I don't have pivot foot pegs. I don't have all
You don't
the
have highway pegs.
I don't have he put highway pegs on it. It's like, they look so funny when he's sitting there. Yeah, so should we go on to Venezuela?
Yes, so.
Yeah. Do you guys want to hear a little bit about Venezuela? Does Venezuela, might it be something you're going to do in the future? Okay.
So very briefly, we wanted to jump into Venezuela and get a taste of Venezuela before the election happened. So in mid-June, while we were in eastern Colombia, we went to Cucuta, which is one of the border towns there, and we went to the Venezuelan consulate to get visas. Being Canadian, we need a visa, but it was a very simple process. We went in one day, so we learned what we needed. We went back the next day, brought all the paperwork. We came back the third day, and we were turned away because we were wearing shorts. But after we changed
Don't wear
into
shorts.
pants, we went back and got our
Passports back with a visa in it, and that's for Canada. For Europeans, I'm not sure that it might be even more simple.
Yeah, many European countries do not even require a visa. They can just show up at the border.
You can just go.
Yeah. So we got the visa. It was a 1-year multiple entry visa. Crossed in. If anyone's interested, we got a 5-minute video on how to cross the border at Cúcuta on our YouTube channel. And so we did Central America, and we thought people were friendly. We get to Colombia, and compared to Colombia, Central Americans are snooty snobs. Colombia, incredibly friendly. We get to Venezuela, and if you can believe it, they actually notched it up an extra level. It was unbelievable how warm and welcoming the Venezuelan people were when they saw foreign tourists in their country. They would go out, before we even left the border town, 3 people had come up to us, given us their phone number, looked us in the eye and said, if you have any problem in my country, you call me. And that continued throughout our brief time there. We only went in as far as Merida.
Yeah.
We stayed in the mountains where it was a little bit cooler, but every place we went.
It was safe and secure feeling. We were cautioned on gasoline. You're going to have a hard time finding gas. And that was true. They have certain days for certain placas, your license plate, to go get gas. As a foreigner, you can pretty much go get gas,
Well,
if they have it, when you need it.
so briefly, one of our experiences getting gas as a symbol of what you might expect. We showed up at the gas station, and there were at least 100 motorcycles in line to get to this gas station. So we get to the end of the line, which is what you do, and we talk to the guy in line, and he says, oh, you can only buy gas today if you've got a number 5 on your license plate. So I thought, well, okay, we got foreign plates, so how does this work? So I left Angela in line to hold our place. I rode all the way back down to the gas station, parked at the station by the pumps, and asked the guy pumping gas. I said, what's the deal? We're foreigners, we have foreign plates. Can we even buy gas today? And he says, how many are you? I said, it's just me and my wife, 2 bikes. He said, no problem. Come just get gas now. I was like, okay, what about all these people? He said, just don't worry about it, come get gas. So on the comms, I tell Angela, just get over here now, come on.
And I'm riding past all these motorcycle riders thinking, oh, I'm going to make them mad at you.
So we at the gas pumper guy's insistence, we butt in line in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
We don't even get in line to pay first. We just go right to the pump. He pumps us with gas. We pay him, and off we go. And not one single person gave us the stink eye or had anything negative to say.
We were just a bit of an anomaly, so they watched with interest.
But
so,
every gas station we went to, we had the exact same experience. Front of the line, you're welcome. Please get gas. Enjoy my country.
So Venezuela, you're closer to it than we are in Canada. So we hear what we hear, but I felt comfortable. I felt safe. The hotels were really nice. It was definitely not a very expensive place to go. You know, a huge plate of food for $3 US. And everywhere we went, we were well received.
We were mindful to get out before the election.
But we did make a point of that just so that we didn't get caught in maybe road blockades or something. Yeah.
So once the demonstrations and all that settle down, I would heartily recommend go and visit Venezuela. You will not be disappointed. And with that, I think we've run out of time.
Yeah.
So thank you, Raul, for giving us the extra moment or two. If you have any other questions, please feel free to come up and talk to us. We'd happily talk to you in your office.